Hello, divine creations, divine marvels, children of God. I'm talking to you, you divine creation. I'm talking to you, you child of God. According to the Bible, you were made in the image and likeness of God. That's pretty profound. That means you and me and everyone. Not that we are God, but that we are like God. I reflect on that a lot. What does that mean? Well, I have tears in my eyes, but I think I have a little bit more of a sense of that today. I'm currently fostering kittens, which means, I'm taking care of them until they find a home. 3 kittens. How old are they? They're literally just, 4 or 5 months old. They're still not full grown yet. So full of life. And when I look in their eyes, there's something so pure and so beautiful. So beautiful. And I don't even have words for the purity and the goodness. And having reflected on Bruno's teaching that human beings are divine and that we are divine marvels, and the Bible's teaching we are made in the image and likeness of God, that's what I'm convinced is at the core of you and me, and that's what God is. This unspeakably beautiful goodness, unspeakable. How can I even begin to convey to you the beauty I see in these kittens' eyes? Just the purity, the purity and the beauty and the goodness. And according to Bruno Groening, he said the human being is and remains divine. That's what he talked about how that divinity can be clouded over and covered over, but that beauty that you are, that divinity, that purity that you are, that I am, that those people who we like are, that those people who we don't like are, that every human being has a goodness that cannot be tainted. It can be covered over. Bruno was very adamant about this. Let's keep in mind, Bruno was teaching in post-World War II Germany, where one of, if not the most evil things that ever happened in this world had just gone down. The whole world thought Germany was evil and the German people were evil. And then here comes this guy, Bruno Groening. He never read an entire book all the way through. And he reminded, and can you imagine what it had been like to have been German? How awful the Germans must have felt? And here comes Bruno Groening saying the human being is never satanic, never evil, but is always divine. But that divine soul can be seized, forced to serve evil. So friends, there's a lot of, in the 21st century, there's a lot of talk about our true nature and so forth and so on. And that's been interesting for me, but I have to tell you, looking in the eyes of these kittens, you can see it in a baby's eyes too. And in a clear moment, I can see it in another person's eyes. And in fact, Bruno Groening said, look, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, look for the divine in others and worship it more and more. It's a very bold declaration and a very bold spiritual instruction to look for the divinity in other people, and then to actually worship it and cherish it. Not that we're worshiping another person, but the divinity inside of them. And I'm going to try and find Bruno's exact words, because that's just a paraphrase. And I really don't like, I like getting Bruno's teachings exactly, but that's almost a direct, quote. Yes, so let's take a few minutes and tune in and reflect on this. Now, Bruno was very adamant that we need to call ourselves to order, and also to recognize when we fall short. So it's not about being like, oh, I'm all good, and then like not ignoring the negativity. No, we really have to become mindful of it and make a firm decision to try and rid ourselves of it. So it's not like, oh, the human being is divine, so they're all good. Bruno didn't say that. In fact, he said, I am not one who believes that human beings don't have guilt. There's a big difference between having and being. The church I was raised in, I was taught I was an evil sinner. It's very different to say you are a sinner versus you have sin or you have sinned. So let's look deeply inside of ourselves. Let's reflect on the beauty of nature, the beauty we see in the eyes of a child or the eyes of a kitten. And ask ourselves, is it possible that Bruno Groening is right? Is it possible that bold statement in the Bible is right? That inside of us there is something utterly pure and divine. So let's spend a few minutes reflecting on this. And interestingly enough, Bruno Groening said, if you observe your body, the truth will reveal itself inside of you. Meaning, if we tune in, we can come to know in our direct experience whether Bruno Groening's teachings are true or not. We don't have to believe in the mental sense. We can come to know, or as Bruno said, convince ourselves of the truth. So let's observe our body with the intention not just to take in the healing power, and I'm starting to believe the love of God, but also to come to know the truth. Thank you so much for joining in, Shelley. Thank you for saying hi. To anyone who's new, a warm welcome to this channel. I usually like to give an intro in the beginning, but very briefly, this is about the teachings of Christ as shared by Bruno Groening, who I consider to be the greatest follower of Christ, the person who embodied and lived like Christ and taught what Christ, in my opinion, actually taught, more so than any other person I'm aware of who's ever lived on this planet. Please don't take my word for it. Find out for yourself. You can click on the link in the chat bar or the link I'll post below this video. Thank you so much for joining in. Big, big love.